Awesome. Let's just go ahead and get it started, Marquis.
So,
Honestly, it's great to have you. Um, I want to welcome everybody to our second podcast of our three-part series. So in these podcast series, what we're really trying to touch on is one, our quality campaign, but also our A through G campaign that we're currently working on right now. So let's go ahead, man. In today's podcast, we're going to go a little bit deeper into our A through G family communication campaign. And I'm also super excited to be joined by my fellow partner, Marquis Evans from Energy Convertors.
so
I'm super excited for you to be joining us. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started, man. If you're not already, go ahead and follow us on social media. Um, via Oakland, we have that on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Marquis, if you want to shout out Energy Convertors, let's go ahead and do it.
yes, sir. So, talking about what we doing right now, man.
First, if you want to just shout out y'all social media, if y'all want
Oh,
to
yes, sir.
get people to
Most
follow y'all.
definitely. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at energy_converters. And it's a
Man,
ORS instead of ERS at the end. So,
man, y'all got TikTok?
oh yeah, we coming up in the world, man.
What y'all be doing on TikTok?
Hey, man, post. Well, what we do is like we'll get those reels and kind of
Okay.
on the TikTok and trying to like figure out what are some creative ways to engage that crowd because to be honest, that's where all the kids are at. So that's
True.
the people we're trying to reach as well. So got to meet
Man,
them.
that's dope.
Mm-hmm.
That's dope. That's something we gotta get into, man. I think we have. I don't think we tapped into TikTok yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Dope. So I mean, yeah, I think I had you back in the second episode we ever did, or third episode, where we talked solely on A through G. And we're gonna do some talking on A through G as well. But I'm curious to know, like, man, what y'all been up to at Energy Converters?
So currently, we just closed out our survey. Thankfully, we lifted a voice of over 400 scholars, and so even with the A through G, is I do appreciate the fact that now there are more scholars that are aware of A through G, but there's still some areas to elevate on. But that's what me and my team are doing now. We're going to take that data, we're going to break it down, and so coming June, you will see our upcoming scholar voice report based off that data that we're now collecting.
Oh, easy. Oh, easy.
That's where you insert that commercial break. It's kind of shaky. Can you say something else? It's kind of muffled a little bit.
Can't even hear you. How about now?
Yes, sir.
You can hear me. I can't hear you for some reason though. What is going on? Let's see. We're gonna fix this. We're gonna get through these technical difficulties, brother. Let's see. All right, let me see, Marquis. See that work?
Can you hear me?
Awesome. I said we gonna get past this. We did.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
perfect. My bad, brother. So I didn't catch the part where you were talking about energy converters.
Oh, so basically, currently, right now, we just recently closed out our scholar voice survey. So
Okay,
we listed the voice of over 400 scholars. And
nice.
when it comes to A through G, I am excited. Well, I accept the fact that our scholars are now becoming a little bit more aware of what A through G is.
Okay.
Now there's still some areas that we got to push a little bit more. We're seeing that many of our students are not aware of how to read their transcript or to kind of
Mm,
figure out they don't know if they are A through G eligible. They know what the requirements are, but they don't know if they are. And so that's something that we're going to build on that research. And so we're going to put that report out in June
yeah,
and let everybody know what those agentic solutions.
that's dope. And I mean that's still a win, right? Because we went from like students not really knowing what A through G was in general right? To now students are knowing about it more.
almost
Um,
50%.
yeah, so that's dope. That's a huge win. I know that's something that like energy converters have been heavily focused on in the beginning. So now that you guys are going more into the details, is great. I think that's dope.
For sure.
Cool. And then yeah, so that's great. I'm glad y'all were able to get 400 instead of 400 server responses.
Yes, sir.
Man, that's huge. Man, we struggled. I struggled to get 20 and the work I was doing. So
Hey,
yeah,
it was a grind. It was definitely a grind. What I have
that's,
learned is like scholars do love incentives. Like so,
um, that's a cool thing. Yeah, and I guess we did the same as well, right? Before I even get into telling you about what the work that we're doing right now, I'm not sure if you've seen the most recent data that we just put out, and this is specific for A through G. So it was what now, 2 weeks ago we just had our quality campaign launch party where we really wanted to show the most recent A through G data that we have, but also SBAC data. So for math and English proficiency, we have all that data and I'd love to share that with you. Share the actual large report with you. But I wanted to touch on the A through G stuff right now. So basically, in our report, when it comes to A through G, is what we have right now, and it just goes to show where, from 2017 to 2021, Black students are still at in the low 50s, right, 54%, and then we have Latino students who are at 67%, right. Now, the way I look at this is like there has been some improvement over the years, which is great, um, but still, it shows the disparity when it comes to our Black and Brown students. So I wanted to just get your input real quick and see what you feel, see how you feel about this.
to be honest, when I look at stuff like this, bro, it's sad. Because
Mm,
when you think about like all of the money that's being put into resources to elevate this, it's just like it seems like we're still in the same position.
yeah.
Whatever, and it's unique because it's as an educator, I do like know like a lot of my Latino students or Latina students when they come in, some come in as English language learners,
Hmm.
where like as English is their second language. But
Yeah.
then by the end of the year, some of them are actually reading at a more proficient level than some of my black scholars. And it's like what resources are being provided and what resources are actually being capitalized on for them to elevate. And also I look at the family dynamic as well too, when it comes to it as well too. Like when
Hmm.
you have family, that parental involvement, like it doesn't matter how low your scholar is, if the parents are like highly involved or that scholar is around like like people, multiple adults in that atmosphere, they're going to thrive.
Yeah.
And that's just something I feel like us as a community, us as families, got to elevate on,
And
because this right here,
yeah,
when you put too much trust into the school system, these are the results that you get. You feel me? So,
I think that's an amazing point because
mhm,
in the server responses, we actually hear that a lot. Like that's a really big pattern,
mhm.
and the theme that we heard in the server responses. And I'm gonna get into that with you because it was just like it's literally what you said. Like our families need to be more proactive when it comes to the education of their children, right? And when I say that, I don't. And when I say that, and when I hear from teachers, I don't think it's saying that parents don't care about their kids. Like, by no means is that what's being said, but I think it's still, especially when students get to high school, the parents' involvement kind of dwindles down, right?
Yeah,
And it's going to what you said, like parents put the trust in the schools, but sometimes the schools are still trying to figure it out themselves, right?
yeah, that's indeed for sure. It's like being proactive is like the biggest case that I mean that's the research that we're kind of building on now. It's like that
Yeah.
parental accountability because we can no longer point the finger no more.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I did want to highlight, this data a bit as well, because I remember like 2 years back, and this is when I initially started working with FIA, when we initially started looking at this data, and even when I would hear from Charles, right, like this data was a lot worse back then, and there's some schools in here that have tremendously increased, right. So I want to shout out even like Oakland, I think it was like Oakland Tech, um, Madison Park, right? Even schools that are more here in the bottom, like Skyline, that was worse, that was doing, I was performing more worse back then. Like they have increased. We have seen some increase slowly by slowly, nowhere near where we wanted to be, right? And I actually had a conversation with one of the school leaders at Oakland Tech, and he was saying like this data is really good, like it's better, but we still need to focus on making sure that our black and brown students are getting that extra support to make sure they turn those D's and F grades into C grades.
Yeah, yeah, because I do look at so many schools, and you got to think about the demographics of some of those schools. Like,
Yeah.
where, 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 what schools are our black scholars attending?
Hmm.
Because if we look at some of these schools, we know that yeah, there's a sprinkle of us in there, or
Yeah.
whatever. Where's the majority of us at?
Yeah.
And when you
And
look at some of these schools, when you see like the charter, I'm not with the charter nor public school beef or anything like that. But when you look at some of these schools, some of the charter schools have systems put in place where scholars have no choice but to graduate with A through
mhm,
G.
yeah.
And even in the grading system, they can't get anything lower than a C. Anything lower than a C is considered an F.
Hmm.
It's not a D. So that's another topic right there.
Yep. Yeah, like going to what you said, like where are these students at? And I mean, even Oakland Tech, right, where what is it, African American students, about 66% of them are A through G eligible, which is still like not where we want it to be, but
Hmm.
has been an improvement. But you can see like the difference, right? Because we look at Latinx students that are at what is it, 57%, but then you look at white students and it's at 83%. So that that's where you can see like how that 73% can be a bit influenced by like the white students who are doing way better, but still an increase compared to how it was before. So still want to point that out.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah. So now let's go into. Let me go ahead and remove this. Let's go into introducing what we're doing right now. So in the start of February, we ended up doing a survey that was to really highlight what are these best A through G practices that we're seeing at these schools, and this whole idea really came from when we were working with Mateen, the prior networks high school network superintendent. When we're talking about our demands, he felt like the right to remediate was had some good support, and also WD has some good like support on like there's already some practices at these schools that could help with that, right? But the one that was a big struggle for a lot of schools in Oakland was the right to know, and when it comes to right to know, it's like good family communication practices that actually work when it comes to letting parents know, letting students know about these interview requirements and where students are at with it. So that's why we're doing the survey, right? We're sending it to all schools. Currently, right now, we have 19 total responses. That's what I'm saying. Like, it was a grind, bro. I had to bug these teachers to get those in, those school leaders to get them in. But it's been a pretty good, turnout because we've had about, the really large Oakland district schools turn them in as well, and then some of the top performing charter schools that are doing good as well. So we're getting a good mix of like responses, and we're seeing like what's working well. What good secret sauce formulas when it comes to A through G are working. We're looking at some of these challenges that are training at these schools, and then we're also looking at what the best family communication practices are at these schools, right?
Yes.
So out of that though, we got to see a little bit of the problem, and I did want to like talk to you a little bit about that. Like, what is the problem that we're seeing when it comes to family communication at the schools? So I want to ask you that first. Like, what do you think the problem is, Marquise?
When it comes to communicating, well, just I'm gonna just speak on me as just as a middle school teacher.
Yeah.
When it comes to communicating to certain parents, one, we know that some parents change their numbers up often, so that's one. But also, it's the way how we get the message out there. It's like we do send emails, we do send through our parent square, we do send out text messages, but at the end of the day, sometimes they're not checking them.
Mm,
We will send home papers like announcements through the scholars. Sometimes those don't get home as well too. So I really do feel like the biggest thing is like one, parents like checking those messages, checking their emails, but also two, being proactive, like
yep.
having those weekly check-ins where you're at least checking into with at least some teacher. I'm gonna be honest, like I had a young scholar, he was in eighth grade. I was his fifth grade teacher, but he was in eighth grade. The parents still used to call me whenever she wanted to know anything that was going on at the school. But it's
Uh,
like, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm not a teacher no more, but I do appreciate her trying to reach out to somebody. You feel me?
yeah.
So it's really about parents being proactive and also taking advantage of the opportunities when the school is trying to communicate, because it is impossible for the school to get on the phone and call every single parent. But we
Yeah.
can't send a mass email out. We can't send a parent score out. We can't send a text message to remind parents like, hey, let y'all know this is the event. Details have been sent to your email. Check your email.
Mhm.
Those type of things.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. And I
Kind
want
of
to I want to pull out some quotes that actually stuck out to me as well, from some of these school leaders. So I'm gonna pull out one real quick here.
so
Um, it's like families don't always respond or show up to events we have for them. We've tried to incentivize attendance with dinners and raffles, and
yeah.
it's from one of our school leaders at Madison Park. so like this is stuff that's being done right. And I'll pull up another one as well. It's from Lighthouse. So sometimes it's difficult to convince parents that A through G is important when their student isn't interested in attending a four-year college, right? And it continues. Our strategy when this occurs is to emphasize that high expectations and extra preparation helps all students, right? So I think this is a big quote because I've heard it a lot as well with students, right? Where it's like when they're freshmen and sophomores, they don't want to go to college. Ooh,
Yeah.
sorry for the background noise, but they don't want to go to college, right? And it's like not until they get to the senior year where they're like, man, this career is like something I kind of need a bachelor's for,
That was me.
right? And
Yeah.
it happens a lot often than we think, right? So it's like, what can we do at that early, level of freshman years or even before they're freshmen to make sure that they know how important these A through G requirements are.
It's like, you mean to tell me I have a choice? Like, so for me, when I came in my freshman year, it said, hey, we have vocational, we have college prep.
Um,
You already know my response. Which one's easier? It was like, well, vocational, I guess. So I was like, bet, sign me up. Let's get it. You feel me? Let me take the easier classes. But by the time like my junior year came, that's when I said, I want to go. I want to play college basketball.
yep.
Like, what do I need to do? Then my counselor basically put me back in the college prep classes. Had to do the Spanish and all this other stuff like that. But I really had to grind it out my senior year. Like, I'm be
Mm,
honest, I did it just in time for me to like take the classes that I need to take by my senior year. Because you already know your senior year, bro, you chilling. That's
yeah.
supposed that's supposed to be your year off, kind of
Yep. You don't want to take any hard classes that year.
it out, because you're giving 13-year-olds the power to decide where what direction their life is gonna go. But it's like it's our job as adults to say, hey, no, I'm gonna put you on a pathway to success. Now, when you get there, as you get older, it's your choice. But it's like I did my job. It's kind of like vegetables. Like no kid likes to eat vegetables, but
Hmm.
as a parent, I know that they're good for you. They're good for your body. So I'm
Yeah.
going to make my child eat those vegetables, and then as he gets older, he's going to come back. Thank you, Dad. I did not understand it at the time, but thank you for allowing me to eat my vegetables. So therefore, we should take that same analogy and apply that to the A through G requirements as
Hmm.
well.
No, yeah, I think it's super important because even myself, right? When I was in high school, and I always share this, but like I never had to worry about A through G. And I didn't even know what A through G was until I started doing this work, which is probably the craziest thing. But I was fortunate and privileged to go to a school where I didn't have to worry about it, right? And
Mhm.
I mean, part of it's probably like I didn't go to. I started at Oakland Community High School, mid through my freshman year, so I probably just missed it. Missed the stuff that they did to like talk about it through G, right? But um, I was still fortunate that I didn't have to worry about it. But I can't say the same for other students in Oakland. And then
Exactly.
when I saw this data, I was like, what is going on at these schools that students are not getting this A through G requirements completed, right? So I was really confused in the beginning, but now like getting more involved in this work, I see what's going on and what the problem is.
Yeah, it definitely when you start tapping into it, it builds your awareness. Like just
Mhm.
like it builds your awareness, how you started getting into it, it's the same way it'll build a parent's awareness when they start getting into it, when they start monitoring it and like kind of learning more about it, then they'll start increasing their knowledge. And then of course when a parent gets that information, they have parent friends as well too, which then they're gonna pass it along as well. So that's really where it starts at, is just like having access to it. And then that's how the message get out there.
Yeah, and I also want to pull out one more quote as well from one of our Skyline leaders, which is we need to communicate and build community much more with our families. This requires more designated staff time as well as a concerted pathway, team planning, and implementation. So I think that proactiveness, right, that you had mentioned earlier, is one part. Like Parents need to play their part as well, right? They need to be more involved. Like you said, that when that one parent that even called you afterwards, but it's like that's a perfect example of what our parents need to be doing. They need to be going to the school. They need to be asking these questions. Because sometimes if a school is not hearing back from parents, they're gonna think everything's chilling, right? But once parents are there, they're asking these questions, and instead of force teachers in school to do something about it. And I think that's what's missing sometimes.
To be honest, we need to treat the school like we treat daycare centers.
Mm-hmm.
When a child is born and we're looking for childcare, you don't just give your infant child to anybody to care for your child while you're at work.
Yep.
Like you want to meet that person. You see, like, okay, cool. Some parents even do background checks on them to see, like, yo, this is my infant baby. Like, this is my baby. But as they get older and they get into school, sometimes it's kind of lax because they think that, oh, this is cool. I could just drop in there safe. They do whatever. But it's like, no, you need to meet the teachers because this when you think about it, we're with students majority of the day, majority of the week. What's that? 8 hours, 8 hours a day, five
Pretty
days a
real
week.
sometimes.
Yeah, 40 hours. That's a whole work day. You feel me? And a teacher has a lot of impact on scholars.
Hmm.
So it is that parent's duty to at least tap in with that teacher at least every other week. That I say minimum every other week to make sure that they're updated on what that scholar is doing in the class. Because I seen a very disheartening news report where it was a young lady. She had her son in high school for 4 years, and she didn't even know that he failed all of his classes throughout all of those 4 years. And it's like, how did you not know?
Uh huh.
How did you not know? Peace, amazing scholar. Have an amazing day.
Oh, that's
We
crazy.
just got out of school.
Oh, okay, but that's crazy. Like what you're telling me is crazy. Like as a parent, how do you not know that? And but I do understand it as well, though, because so I had a relative as well who had. I understand how we could just slip somebody's mind, is what I'm saying, right? Because I had a family member as well who attended Unity, right? And I would have never thought this would happen, right? Because I mean, for me, Unity is like they have A through G together, and they do, right? For the past couple years, they've had a good A through G completion rate. But at that point, it was one of my siblings, not siblings, yeah, nieces, sorry, who actually didn't graduate with them completed. So I was confused. I was like, "Yo, what happened?" And I was telling my cousin, I was like, "What happened? Like, were you not aware of this?" And she was like, "No, I never heard back. I thought they were just had it handled." And I was like, "Damn," I was upset about it, but it's also like she took a step back, and it's like you have to be involved. You have to know what's going on. And I think also what some schools may or may not be doing, right? It's popped up in our survey that some schools are doing it, but I'm not sure if every school is doing it. Is like a one-to-one time with both parents and with students, right? So a two-on-one in some sense. And I know Oakland Unity does this thing that's called SLCs, so student-led conferences, and they do it about it's I think once a semester or something like that. Where this is like the best family engagement they have. Like when it comes to events, this is the best they have. So I think they have about 80 to 90% of families who actually come to these. And what happens is they have the student actually go through where they're at with their grades, where they're at with A through G, and all other information, right? So that's like a super important like A through G family communication practice that we're gonna highlight in our report. But something like that is super important because it just allows the parents to be really engaged of what's going on with their child's education that sometimes isn't happening at other schools, or they just don't have it quite figured out yet.
And then to add on to that, because even I taught at a school in Indianapolis, Indiana,
Mm,
and we gave out progress reports every week.
yeah.
But you know how when the end of the trimester comes, that's the big progress, the report cards.
Mm,
It was mandatory that parents had to come to the school to receive that report card.
okay.
If your scholar was passing all their classes, you didn't have to have the parent teacher conference. It was only optional if you
Mm,
wanted to have one, and then we had the schedule set up. If you were failing more on one, more than one class, you guaranteed you had to have that conference with us.
yeah.
And then we signed off that you came in. If there was a parent that did not come in, we gathered up a list of all the parents that did not show, and we made sure that we reached out to them to make sure that they
Mhm.
came to the school. It was mandatory that
Yeah,
they had to come to the school. So there is no aha moments or no got you moments
yeah.
at the end of the year when it's like, oh, I didn't know that they was failing. Y'all didn't reach out. Y'all didn't communicate. And to this day, and it's going back to the news report. It was to a point where I really felt like the news was making a mockery of this lady, dog. Because it's like, for 4 years, how did you not know? You didn't receive no progress reports, no
Mhm.
report cards, no nothing. And then we always have those a few parents where, oh, well, my child didn't bring the progress report home. Like, is that a school thing, or is
Mhm.
that more on the parental
Yeah,
accountability side?
yeah.
Because I'm gonna be honest, like my pops knew when that progress report is supposed to come back in. And if I come home, because I tried it twice, where
Uh,
I'm honest, there was some unpleasant grades on there. It's like, I gotta hide this, I ain't gonna say nothing. And I'll be like, oh, my teacher didn't give it to us. We let out kind of late, so they let us go. Oh, really? Okay, cool, bet. Call, you know what I'm saying? That quickly fix that situation. So it's like, if
yeah.
there's something that you feel like you don't believe your child is saying, it's so easy to give that school a call. Even if you don't know the number, you could literally go to Google Maps and type in their school, and the number is on there. You can get somebody from the front office, and they're
Uh,
going to guide you in a direction to get you where you need to go. So we're in the age of technology. We have too much technology out here where we could get in contact with people if we really want to get in contact with people.
mhm.
So it goes back to the triangle:
Yep.
teacher accountability, which is the school accountability, student accountability, and the parent accountability. And it's like, I know for sure the school is going to do their. Not all schools do the maximum, no, most to communicate, but I can say there is some type of system where they do try to reach out to parents.
Mhm.
It's like, sometimes, going back to proactive, being proactive. We
Yeah.
got to be proactive on those things. If you feel like the school is not communicating enough, you don't just sit back and just accept it. You still have to be like, okay, cool. Well, I know that the school is not communicating that much. Me as a parent, let me step up and communicate and do what I need to do.
So I like that, and what I'm hearing, right? I think it's two things, or like two problems, right? One is student and parent accountability, right?
Mhm.
Student and parents need to be more proactive when it comes to their education or their child's education, right? If you're as a student, if you're in a position that you don't know what's going on, you don't know where you're at, it's very easy to set up a meeting with a school counselor, right?
Yes.
Talk to your advisor. Ask, hey, I have a question. Where am I at right now with A through G, right? And I think for parents, same thing. Like if you're not hearing back from the school, don't just assume that your child's in a good spot. Give them a call at some point when you can. Ask some questions. Go to the school principal, go to the teacher, ask them some questions about where their child's at. And I think there's also some accountability on the school as well, right? I think when it comes to, and I really like the part I saw somewhere in the survey, but it was schools need to set up more time for office hours where parents can just come in and actually ask questions, right? Or even what our Skyline leader said is like we need more designated staff time, to really work on this issue. And a lot of schools is really hard because it's just like the lack of teachers that some of these schools have as well, lack of
That
staff.
is, well, because I also say, like, sometimes people do slam the school counselors, but I do know, like, there's sometimes you may take on a job at a school, but because there's a shortage of adults in the building, they require you to move around and cover
Mhm.
other classes and do these things. And so I my heart goes out to those, but then there are some people that are lazy, that they're not effectively doing their job.
Um,
Us knowing that, like, that's where you take initiative. That's when I took initiative to form that relationship with my counselor. That's when things started happening my way. And that's something
mhm,
that we have been noticing in our research is, there's a strong number of scholars that are saying that they do not have a relationship with their school counselor.
mhm.
But I also feel like it is a two-way relationship where
Yeah.
you have to want to form that relationship as well too. Like, if you see that they're not communicating with you, don't put your trust into their hands. Like, you need to step up and be proactive as a student to
Mhm.
go make sure that you're meeting with that counselor.
Yeah, I think that's super important.
Hmm.
And just to wrap up this part right here, and then we can go into like why we need to act now. But um, after breaking down the survey a bit and just looking at these challenges, the theme that we saw pop up a lot throughout these 19 schools was one, the lack of family engagement, which we just talked about, right? And what we're noticing is that this is really happening through our underserved communities, Black and Brown, Arabic, and other groups that also have language barriers is a big thing as well.
Yes.
I saw you react to that. That's a big thing as well that we've been seeing, especially like in some of our schools that have um, other ethnicities. One being Arabic, one being Mom, who just there isn't a lot of people in our community who can really help translate with that, right? And the other one is the mindset of college not being seen as affordable for everybody as well. And there was one school leader who mentioned how, and I felt this heavily because in our Hispanic Mexican community, it's almost seen like as if one person leaves to college, that's one person who's a potential breadwinner to help keep supporting that family, right? And that's a big thing. I mean, it might be, you might relate to that too, but it's also like, for me, it's like you're almost holding your child back if you have that mentality, right? And it's like, for me, it was super like I always grew up that I was my parents were like, you're gonna go to college. I was like, even if it's you got to come out of debt, you're gonna go to college. So that's always been something that was kind of like instilled into me. But I know it's not the same as everybody. But we kind of also have to break a little bit away from that mindset.
That I to be honest, I believe every parent wants their kid to go to college and thrive.
Mm,
But at the same time, it's like in the middle, it's about, okay, cool. What are the steps to get there?
yeah,
And are you willing to put in that discipline? And do you trust this process? If this discipline is put in place to get your child to this level?
yeah,
And it just goes back to priorities as well too. When we do have these discussions with parents, when we do have those informationals, you don't see too many parents come in for things like that. But now we have like a eighth grade dance or eighth grade prom for our students. Yo, they out here supporting, getting the limousines and everything for the scholars,
uh,
like all on social media with it. So it's just like have that same energy when it comes to your child's academics, even when it comes to sports. Like parents would show out for their scholars when it comes to sports, but it's like let's keep that same energy when it comes to academics as well too,
yep,
because if they do not get their academics, they're not going to be playing the sports as they advance in their careers. And
yep,
we've seen plenty of stories, plenty of situations where scholars that was known for being dope on the field or on the court or whatever field of play they was in, and they was not strong in their academics because there was no culture set around academics, and
yep.
I think that's the biggest thing.
And that held them back.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. So I guess let's just quickly wrap up with why is it that we need to act now? We as a community, we as teachers, we as community leaders, why do we need to act now? I want to get your thoughts on it, Marquise.
but I mean we ain't got time to waste because every time I'm gonna put it like this. So in Oakland, we already know it. We call it the Oakland tax, bro. If you go outside and you know you got your car parked somewhere and your window is not bust, you had a blessed day. You had a blessed day if your
Bro,
window is not broke. So when those situations happen, I always think about what was this the person who broke my window, what was their education experience like?
mm,
And when I look at some of my students, I think about if I fail this student, if I fail to provide them with the top quality education, what are they gonna go off and do? I'm gonna be honest. There's some people who don't go to college and they do end up being successful, but those like it's a few. You
yeah,
feel me? So you gotta think about when you go to college, the access that it gives you. Even if some people didn't even finish college, but you gotta think about the networking and access of individuals they was in proximity to that helped elevate their life.
hmm,
And so when I think about it, I think about we have to change that now because these scholars, they're going to be future adults. Either they're going to be bringing positivity to the community or they're going to be bringing negativity to the community. So we can no longer be like, oh, dang, this new generation and this new generation. This is like we contribute to that. So it is our job to make sure that we be the adults in the equation and start demonstrating those tactics that work for us that allow us to like get it because as we elevate, we look back on our middle school selves and we think about some of the things that there's some of the decisions that we made.
Yep.
And the good decision that we made, they actually brought positivity to our adulthood. The bad decisions that we made, they end up hurting us as we got adults.
Mhm.
So that's why we need to go ahead and like get to it now. I always say that whenever my students ask me what time it is, I say the time is now. I ain't got no watch, but two, it's like we don't have time to wait, and
Yeah,
it change because I'm getting tired of getting my window busted.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And I really want to add on to like the college piece that you said right now, right? Because there's actually I had a student recently actually, and he's actually in the baseball team that I'm helping run a bit, and he recently just had me help him with like a scholarship like application.
Hmm.
He did like a little bit of a page, and he wanted me to go through and help him out. But in there, he talks about how he wants to get into a trade, right?
Yeah,
So that that trade doesn't necessarily mean that he has to go to a four-year college, but he's gonna go the community college route. But it's still like there's always different choices that you can make, and it might not be a four-year college, but it's still gonna show like at least if you have these ATG requirements completed,
yeah.
you're gonna have that option for yourself down the road. Hey, you know what? I did my 2 years of community college. I might as well get my bachelor's, or I might need this for my bachelor's, and you're covered. You don't have to go backwards for it.
I think about when a situation like that. I think about Shaq, man.
Mm.
Shaq is out here doing everything, bro. He is living
It
life,
is.
and it's like when he, I'm sure when he went to LSU, got the degree, woo woo. His whole mission was to play basketball, to be the best center in the league. He did that. But it's like now he's Dr. O'Neal. He's Dr. Shaquille O'Neal because
Mhm.
he went back to college just because he could. You feel me? You never
Yeah.
know what decisions you want to do. I mean, what decision you want to make as you get older. So it's like, why not just go ahead and take care of it? Hold on. So it's like, why not go ahead and take care right then and there? Like
Yeah.
reading, for example. Like I tell my students every time, everything that you're learning in elementary school and middle school, you're going to learn that again in high school. Is going to be more details. So it's like, why not just go ahead and learn it now? Because so you don't have to play catch up.
Yep.
It is what it
Exactly.
is.
It is what it is. Man, well, I think we'll definitely go ahead and wrap it up there. I know you gotta head out as well, get
Yes,
your
sir.
first goal. But man, it's always a pleasure when I get to collaborate with you, Marquise, and collaborate with Energy Converters in any way possible. So I definitely want to give you love. Say thank you so much for joining on, and helping me do this amazing podcast on A through G.
Hey, man, I appreciate you allowing me to be a guest, bro.
Yeah, and I know I'm going to see you at this event too, right?
Oh, we'll be live.
Definitely. No,
It'll be live. I'll be
we're
there.
gonna have you. We're gonna have some energy converters folks in the house. But yeah, this is our A through G award ceremony. This is our third annual, so we had it. This is our third one. This will be the first one we actually have in person. So and we're actually gonna have it at Baytech, so that's gonna be dope. It's gonna be a cool spot.
Shout out to Miss Frost, Dr. Frost.
Oh, she's amazing. Shout out. All right, brother. Well, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, bees, man.
All right, peace.